Hello, everybody. This is your instructor, Al. This is our first PowerPoint, the legislative branch. Hopefully, you have completed your readings and are ready for the PowerPoint. So let's get started. The big ideas that we're going to cover in the legislative part of this unit is the Constitution gives the legislative branch or Congress the power to make laws. That's the big job of the legislative branch. No other branch in our government is allowed to do this. While the Constitution limits the powers of Congress, it also gives Congress the power it needs to conduct its business and to accomplish its goals. Now, the Constitution does give the powers to Congress to do this, but there are also many checks and balances to make sure that Congress does not get too powerful. Originally, we had the Articles of Confederation as a constitution, and we only had one branch, and that branch was Congress. All of the power was in Congress at that point, and really nothing got done. Congress employs many staffers who help with the workload. Each senator or congressman have multiple staffers, either in Washington, D.C. or back in their home state. Washington would not be able to run without these staffers. They're almost like the Gophers of Washington, D.C. They make sure that everything is done on time, and they make sure that their congressman or woman have all the information they need to actually vote on something. Several complex steps are involved in taking an idea and turning it into law, which we'll be talking about further down the road. So the organization, United States Congress is a bicameral legislature, meaning that there are two houses. Our two houses are the Senate and the House of Representatives. You can see there in our picture, that is our Capitol building. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C., you really can't miss it. It probably should be one of your first stops. But there on the left side is the House, and on the right side is the Senate chambers. Okay, both work together and separately. Okay, both are needed to pass laws through. There are many steps, and it takes quite a while. So, just to reiterate, bicameral means two. In the Articles of Confederation, before we had the Constitution, we had a unicameral, so only one house. Okay, terms and sessions. Congress works in two-year terms. So every 2 years, a new Congress is created. 1/3 of the Senate and the entire House is up for election in these 2 years. Now, the reason why the House is up for election every 2 years is because there are 435 members of the House. So it's very unlikely that 435 members are all going to be voted out at once. The Senate, on the other hand, has 6-year terms. So every 2 years, 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election. In Michigan, right now, Debbie Stabenow is up for re-election, and she's running against a Republican, I believe his name's Pete Hoekstra. Carl Levin, our other congressman, is not up for election this year, so they stagger. Okay, each congressional term is divided up into 2 sessions or meetings, typically lasting from January until November. So really, Congress works for 11 months out of the year. Okay, first of all, the House of Representatives. There are 435 members of the House. Members are elected by a popular vote in each state. That 435 members is completely based on the population of the state. Membership may change every 10 years depending on the census because population does change. So 10 years ago, well, really 12 years ago now in Michigan, we had 17 members within the House of Representatives. This year, in 2012, we only have 16 because we lost a significant amount of population. Also, the House of Representatives are the only house that can create tax law. The Senate is not allowed to create tax law. Okay, if you want to become a House member, these are the things that you need. First of all, you have to be at least 25 years old. They must live in the state they represent, because it's not like you can represent a state. I can represent Michigan if I'm living in Florida. All right, it doesn't make sense. I wouldn't know what's going on in Michigan. They must have been a U.S. citizen for at least 7 years before being elected. Okay. The Senate. Okay, senators, there are 100 senator members, okay, 2 per state, so everyone's equal. Senators are chosen by a popular vote in each state. Originally, it was chosen by the House of Representatives. But because there was so much, I guess, dirty dealing going on during that, they have changed it to a complete popular vote. Now, over the past couple of years, they've talked about, when I say they, I mean our government has talked about changing it back, okay? Changing it back to the House of Representatives voting entirely. Both Senate and House members should look to the people or their constituents, that's you, for guidance on what policies and laws to make. The way that you can get involved with your senator or your congressman is to send emails, send letters, petitions. All of those things give ideas to your senators or congressmen or women. Okay, right here, okay, the qualifications to become a senator. We have Debbie Stabenow here at the top and Carl Levin here at the bottom. Like I said earlier, Debbie Stabenow is up for re-election right now. You have to be at least 30 years old. So as you can see, there's a little bit more prestige to becoming a senator because there are less members. They must live in the state that they are serving, just like in Congress. And they have to be a citizen for at least 9 years. So it is a little bit harder to become a senator. Okay, informal qualifications. So those were the formal qualifications, things that you definitely needed. You needed to be 25 years old. You needed to be 30 years old. You had to live in the state. Okay, informal qualifications are really up to you, okay? Qualities that we're looking for in elected officials. So things like, some people think a military background is very important. Some people think that a college education, certain college degrees are more important. So it's really up to you. Before you go into that voters box when you're going to be making your choice on senators or congressmen, you should have informal qualifications. You should be, ready to go. You should know what's important to you. Okay, leaders in Congress. So there's a majority party in Congress and a minority party. It really depends on how many Republicans and how many Democrats are in Congress at that point. So right now, the House of Representatives, the majority party in the House are Republicans, and the minority party are Democrats. And it's flip-flopped. In the Senate, Democrats have the majority and Republicans have the minority. Now, that can change either way. It really depends on how your constituents or the public votes. All right, the majority party, the political party with the most members in a particular house, and the minority party, political party with the less members. Okay, it's very, very simple, very straightforward. Okay, this has changed recently. So the Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House is selected by a vote of the House members. Speaker presides over House meetings and debates. The Speaker also gets to decide which bills are discussed in the House. The Speaker is very important in the House because he or she gets to pick how much time they're going to allow a bill to be debated on the floor. So if they agree with it, they may allow more time than if they disagree with it, or vice versa, depending. Also, the Speaker of the House is the third in line to become president. The only time that we've ever had the Speaker of the House become president is when Nixon and his vice president both resigned, and Ford became president. This is our old Speaker of the House. This is Nancy Pelosi. Right now, we have a Republican named John Boehner. Now, the Senate leader is the vice president. The vice president's really only job as the Senate leader is to break tying votes. This doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it's usually on important stuff. The last time I remember this happening was when Dick Cheney, our vice president under George W. Bush, passed a tax law, cutting taxes, right before we went into Iraq, which is a very big deal because if you cut taxes, that's less money going towards the war. Floor leaders. Each party has floor leaders in each house. They speak for their parties and help push legislation their party wants. They try to persuade other members to support the legislation. Now, the floor leaders are called whip leaders. That's why I have a whip here on the side. Okay, the whip leaders are basically there to make sure that everyone is informed. Committee work. Congress has broken itself up into committees or smaller groups. The reason why they've done this is to make sure that, there's not 435 members trying to look through a bill, okay, trying to completely make changes to a bill. The committee is there to basically be experts on that section. Okay, they're supposed to be experts on these types of bills. Within committee work, they can debate, they can listen to experts, they can do multiple things to see if they want to move the bill through or kill it right there. There are many different ways that a bill can die, and the committees definitely are a place where bills can just go and never be seen again. Okay, there are different types of committees. There's a standing committee, which is always there. There's temporary committees, so special interest groups, and joint committees. Joint committees are there for both the Senate and House of Reps when they have to come together and actually have to change things. Legislative powers, implied powers are those listed. Okay, express powers are in Article 1, Section 8, which you should be looking through. Okay, I'm not really going to go through this slide with you. Powers of Congress. So, like at the beginning, I told you that their job is to make laws, but they also have the authority to impeach officials or kick out officials. If the House decides to impeach the official, the Senate is then in charge of impeaching the official. The last time that an impeachment was tried was when Bill Clinton was put on the stand. He wound up not being impeached, though. To be impeached, you actually have to be kicked out of office. Limits on powers. There are checks and balances, okay? We have the Bill of Rights for a reason, to make sure that your rights aren't stepped on by our government. Okay, congressmen. They make roughly around $170,000, but they also get tons of stuff free. They get free parking spaces, they get free trips home, they get free food, they get free gyms, they get low-cost insurance. So really, they make a ton of money, and they can give themselves a raise. Okay, behind the scenes, like I said, without these people here, our Congress would not work. These are our gophers. They're the ones that really read through all of your mail to make sure and see what's important, then bring it to the congressman. Okay, like I said, each congressman has helpers and staff in D.C. as well at home. Okay, so what do they do? Members do two things besides making laws, okay? They make sure that they're looking through your complaints to see what's important to you, as well as trying to get public works projects for their constituents passed through. These public works projects are called pork barrel projects. They usually put them in bills that they know for a fact are going to pass. So if I want a new road in my town, I'm going to try to put it in a bill that, let's say everybody gets to pet a puppy on the second day of June. All right, everybody's going to vote for that, so the pork barrel project will get passed through. Okay, joint resolutions are bills passed by both House and Congress. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. Again, bill becomes a law. You should have a worksheet that tells you exactly the exact steps. This is just the short version. I know it doesn't look very short, but it is. Finally, vetoing a bill. The president can veto a bill. Okay, that's a check and a balance.